All right, we need to understand what it takes to get our democracy back in this United States of America. We are not a democracy anymore. Insurgents have come in from the university diploma and have wrecked everything so that they could be in charge. They completely stole our money and counterfeited it, and with your blessing, because you wanted greed more than you wanted life. But nonetheless, that's not the part of importance today. Today, we face our own extinction. Believe it or not, the global warming is real, and the stupid leader that you hired is utterly useless in that, utterly confused in everything that has about life and world and war and everything that is required. So this is the last chance to become a democracy before we face our own extinction, as is most likely to occur because Trump was elected. Doesn't mean he's the enemy, just means he's not equipped for what this world needs. And this world needs law, not force, or not weapons, not armies, not power, not pride. None of the things that he represents, because he represents exactly what Hitler was prior to World War II, and he's following the very same path. So our decision, because we're not going to survive World War III. There are 8.2 billion people at least, and the reality of killing 1 billion people still leaves 7.2 billion people more, and in 10 years that billion will be back or less. So it's not going to help. We have to accept the price of our decisions, and we have to learn what democracy is so that we can enforce it. Democracy means that we, the people, rule ourselves. By law, we create. Now, we have thrown that away with the fact that the university diploma, which every politician has, every leader of any kind has, it's all based upon the university diploma is God. The courts and everything else, media and everything else, it's all based on university is God, and they let us here. So their state of being God is more devil or Satan or whatever you want to call it, because the end result is that we're all facing our own extinction, because 1 degree too hot in this planet and we all die. All the life dies. Everything moves. Everything cannot survive the heat. Everything cannot survive the poisoning of the water. Everything cannot survive the weapons of war that you created. We cannot survive the destruction that you have formed. We cannot survive any of it. We have to do better. We have to do better now. We have to take control for ourselves. And while the people that elected Trump all want what they want, which is to turn the clock back to what it used to be 50 years ago, it ain't going to happen. Because the population has doubled. We get 100 million or more people born into this world every year beyond deaths, and that means 100 nations or so have to take in 1 million people more each year. And that's not going to stop just because you want it to stop. And you're not going to kill 1 billion people and make it stop either. You're not going to do that. You're just going to ruin and kill the world, and there is no resources left to rebuild everything. There is nothing there. And we have to have world law to control the leaders who are trying to control us, as they used to do throughout history, which never proved to be of value, because there is always war. Because men who are not happy with what they have decided for chaos that they're going to take what they want. And of course, leaders, to hide what they have done, which is nothing of value, go to war so that they can remove the people that question them. They don't want people to question them. They just want war so that you have to focus on something else. And when men focus on things, they lose track of what is real and what is true and what is important. So we want to avoid war in every sense of the word. Where's your ammunition going to come from? You know, there are people trying to burn us out. There are people that are, you know, every form and every kind of everything that hate can be is here. Everything. The universities are filled with biological weapons. They are mutilating nature itself on purpose. They're trying to ignite atoms on fire just like the sun here on this earth, which of course we cannot control, which has a radiation that is beyond concept. In other words, your gods of university have failed you. And if you don't dig yourself out of the grave that they made for you, you're going to be extinct. So we have to have democracy. In other words, we have to create our own laws. And we have to review what is true, what is false, and what is the cost of being wrong with the things that we have already done. And that requires, in this nation, the First Amendment redress of grievances. Because that means we have the legal authority to demand a review and examination of the evidence to prove or disprove that our employees did in fact do what our contract with them said they would do. And our contract is the preamble of the Constitution itself. It is not some kind of game. It is not some kind of reward. It's not some kind of trophy. It's a job. And if you do a job badly, then we need to remove you. And that's just how it is. The courts have no control over the Constitution. Their entire authority comes underneath the law that is the Constitution. The Constitution rules them. They do not rule the Constitution. That is a foundation principle of democracy. Something you must learn. So, what we need to do is demand redress of grievances. That is our legal right to a legal civil war, which is simply to examine for ourselves in a courtroom so that we can prove to each and every one as best we can that this is not a lie, this is the evidence of our truth, our reality as a nation, this is where we are going, this is what we are doing, and this is the end result of what's going to happen if we don't stop what we are doing, as is important to you. Just as, you know, your children are not going to survive, you threw away all the resources. Take a look at your garbage. You threw away all the resources on this very finite planet. You have trampled over everything. And you live as about one person per each and every acre of agricultural land. You have torn down the forests and you've torn down everything, poisoned everything. Everything is as the university decided. And of course the university does very, 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 very little. 1 out of a million contribute something, and all the rest yell, "We did it." They did not. They did not. They contributed little to nothing. And that's the truth for most of them. And of course, you know, we can't really have that as a nation or a world. We have to, you know, focus on what we need to survive. We have to accept the reality of what truth will let us decide. And we have to make the decisions that will provide a future for those who are younger than us. The baby boom generation was a particularly tragic affair. They're tragic. They wanted greed more than they wanted life. And all their children said the same. So, you have to make a better decision. You can scream all you want, but it don't make no difference. We burn enough fuel to overheat the planet, to remove ice from the oceans, which is a base element of what the base food of the ocean starts to grow as. And the list is endless, or seems like it. We have to do better. So, what I'm asking for you to do is to think about your future. Think about the reality of what real world civil war means, because that's where it's going. as is the intent to throw out 11 million people and more, it will require guns. It will require the army. And you will be right at Nazi headquarters door, or they'll be at yours. And Nazi means simply that we want our power. We are the ones who decide. Now we are taking control. You have no say, because we'll kill you instead, just like they did to the rest. And of course, if they are successful, just like in Germany, they'll trample into the next country and the next country, and you know, the failure of Trump is potentially tremendous. He wants to align with dictators. He wants to align and be Stalin. He wants to be a failure, because that's what he says. And since you elected him, that's what you want too. That's what you want too, as a majority. You think you're just electing somebody to throw out the immigrants so that you can have your state back, and your nation back, and your world back, and your money back, and your everything back? It won't happen. They stole from you $652 trillion or some such thing is the current method, and that means that there's dollars, actual dollars and cents, which represent, divided equally, $6.53 million per person in this United States. And the world claims over $2 quadrillion, and that means that every single person on the planet, every single face on the planet, has 150-some thousand or whatever it is. I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter. Numbers are the biggest liars of all. You think you have everything you need because you have numbers? Well, you don't. You can have as many numbers as you want in your bank account. Go ahead, write down $1 trillion. You got $1 trillion. See my bank account? Go ahead, see it. All that matters is when you try to spend it. And there ain't enough resources in the entire world to pay back the numbers that you created. There is not enough resource in the world, in this planet, to pay back all the numbers that you created. And of course, media lies continually and claims that there's just a teeny little bit of inflation. Well, there is not. There is an enormous amount of inflation, because inflation is the currency that you are hiding. It's the numbers of dollars, and of course that occurs because they take from you all those numbers and give it to themselves, and they launder it in Wall Street and what have you to keep you, those who are there, from complaining. They lie. They cheat. They steal. They betray us. They terrorize us by mutilating nature and doing all kinds of horrifying things. That's the great reward of a university. And while you might say how wonderful a cult it is for you, the leader decides, not you. As is communism, the leader decides, not you. Never question the leader. That's your job. That's what you obey. That's what you must fear. As is with COVID, which was $60,000 per shot for each and every one of 100 million shots. And by no means was it safe. Mesothelioma took 30 or 40 years to create trouble. Cigarettes create 40 for the majority. You ain't done with it. You just believers. And one of the worst things in the world that you can be is a believer. And that's not a religious statement, that's a believer. I want what I want, and that's all that I want, and I don't want nothing else but what I want. That's a believer. Because the evidence doesn't matter. All that matters is what you want. And what is not enough. Life requires truth. As does our living, as does our reality, as does our nation, as does our world. Truth decides, and in that decision, we are able to survive. Lies that decide take away everything that we depend upon as value to us, and they throw it all away. They throw it all away. I'm here not saying to you, believe in me. I'm saying to you, go and investigate and find out what is true. Use the law, which is redress, already authorized by our nation as our method of dealing with those who are employees who appear to be failing us. We are the responsible for our nation and our world, and we are responsible for what our leaders do. And that means we must check up on them. We must investigate them. Not because it's Trump and not because it's anything else. It's just because they're our leaders. And as a nation, we deserve to know where our future is going and what we're going to be faced with. And of course, what we are facing is World War III, because you can start it like so many things, but you can't stop it. There's no switch to turn it off.